Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back, I guess, to my Twitch stream. I got Discord notifications going off. I might have a creator come on. I don't know. We haven't necessarily agreed to a stream, per se, but yeah, we were having a discussion, so maybe he's willing to come on. Yeah, so we'll see. But I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, some of the news in Star Wars. You know, I'm never prepared for stuff like this. So let's pull up some articles. Retcon of the sequel trilogy. Okay. Okay, so 1 second, guys. Just come about. What are we gonna talk about? I guess gender bias. All right, guys. I can send you a link. Right. So I'm gonna have a discussion with the creator first, and then we can move into the other topics I want to discuss. Like to what? My stream. I'm live right now. What about gender bias? I don't know. Chat. No chat. I know there's no chat, but just the general broad topic of gender bias we're going to talk about, I guess. Oh, you made a video. I just screw it. I'll send you. I'll send him the link. I copied it. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. This is a awful start. If I knew he was coming on, I would have had him. Come on. Nothing new would be added. Well, yeah, you can join. That's the link to join if you want. All right, guys. I don't know if we're gonna have a discussion on this or not, but we'll definitely see. Who's my one viewer? You gotta type something in the comments, man. It's probably him. Yeah. So we might have a conversation on gender bias, I guess. Similar to the Choco conversation, but I think his video was. I guess we could pull his video up. Because I wanna go over it, right? I don't want to, just yo, what's good? Who's Wicked? Wicked. Who's this? Well, in a sec. All right, he's gonna join. Wicked, what's going on, my man? We're smashing, Mike. Okay. Jesus, guys. I want to get this video pulled up for context. Yeah, I just, I want to have it up for context. I should get my video up too, shouldn't I? So he's going to join in a second, so I got to keep an eye out for this. Oh. I got to find the video. Oh, why is it? Why can't I join, bro? I gotta find the video. Alright, I got the video up. Alright. Alright, I got my video up for context. Just in case we need to look at it. Yeah, guys, so we're going to talk about today. We're going to have this discussion, and then I'll go into some details about the rumored retconning of the sequels. That's not going to happen. I'm going to just give my thoughts on that. Give my thoughts on the leaks and rumors that we're hearing around Star Wars and what we think is going to happen. And I might dabble into a little Marvel stuff. I don't know. That's not my field of expertise. So yeah, I mean, it's not my field of expertise, but I'm more than willing to talk about it. It's just kind of I'm thinking about doing a weekly podcast like this, talking about Star Wars and the week's rumors we've been hearing. Yeah, I also want to talk about the Mandalorian's film date, Jar Jar, maybe an Obi-Wan. I didn't really come up with topics before this. I just get on and talk. So that's what I usually do. And yeah, I think that's how I'm gonna do it because I don't really structure myself like this. But yeah, so we have this guy's video up for context, or do we? I didn't pull it up, did I? I want to have this guy's video up for context. And we have my video up for context. Just because I think it's fair. We establish each other's positions on this, I guess. Because I you saw my YouTube video on it. If you're watching me, you must have a really sorry life. I'm sorry to say, I'm not the best at this content creation stuff. So we're just waiting for him to come on. Wait for him to come on. Give me a sec. Can I get a drink? Get in. Oh, that's fine, my man. That guy is all set. You think as long as he wants. So, the conversation is going to be mostly about gender bias. I guess it would derive into a multitude of different topics. I guess, yeah, I guess I think my jumping, you'll see my jumping off point. But I think my jumping off point is going to be more about my problem with this video. So, yeah. They're just understanding each other's points, but we'll see. By the way, if you guys want to follow him, his TikTok is CandyInmyvan, and he has the Mandalorian as his logo. So if you want to go follow him, I encourage you to do that. Yeah. I don't want to do this. I don't know how I want to do it yet. I see the problem is they should have waited to confirm if you want to come on. I mean, but like I never said you're welcome to come on my stream. I've said that a couple times. So hey, you don't want to come on my stream, you don't have to. I mean, I don't like having. I mean, like you're gonna say your viewpoint on TikTok, you have to say it. Like I think, and you should have a conversation. And I want to elaborate. I encourage longer form discussion. I think it's very valuable, especially when I only have a minute on TikTok to give my point of view on these. I wouldn't say hotly contested topics, right? I'm not a political TikToker or whatever, so I make Star Wars content, but there is topics in Star Wars that I can't say all in a minute, and I don't want to make 7 parts. That's what TikTok's for, I make a quick 15-second video that some people do so well. But that's not me. I just want to give my facts and thoughts and be critical of the stuff I love. You know, it just and then when um, yeah, if you just like mine get dogpiled on, sometimes it can happen. I mean, we saw what happened with Cam Higby, his video. I mean, yeah, he was wrong generally about what he said, but to bring politics into that was wrong. I don't know how old this dude is. I think he's my age, but I have no clue. Oh, come on. Come on. All right, it should be coming on any second now, guys. All right. Hey, what's going on, my man?
No, not much. Sorry for the wait. I had to go fill up my dog's water bowl. I had to get something to drink, so.
Nah, you're all good. You're all set. You're all set. How's it going?
Not bad. And I also want to preface, if I accidentally leave, my battery on my computer is like dying right now. So I'll be back in a few minutes. It'll sometimes and sometimes not just turn off randomly. So
yeah, you're all good. Don't worry about it.
I'm not cowarding out of the conversation.
No. I believe you. I believe you. So yeah, so I guess we can get right into it. So the topic I wanted to discuss kind of was gender bias. I had made a video on it, and then you made a response to it. So I guess since you're my guest, I want you to elaborate on what your point of view was, what your perspective on my video was, and yeah, go ahead.
So I don't think your video was overall bad. I did think you brought up a very bad point, which I also want to say you did have this conversation with Dark Choco, obviously, a very big creator, and a lot of his points you guys did already talk about, for example, if I like one female character, well, I can't be biased against females because I like a female, which obviously, that's not what gender bias is. And I can even say after watching your Choco podcast on this, I was like, yeah, a lot of the things I was saying, I was using that word wrong in a lot of cases, which I'm openly able to, admit. Sometimes I did get the word wrong, and sometimes I got it right. And that also comes from a lot of, seeing sexism in the fan base. I mean, the Star Wars fan base. If there's a female character, I mean, for instance, take the High Republic characters. I haven't read them personally. All I know is that they get tons of hate just because it's SJW or female lead, And so it's hard to see characters like Rey when they're just for the fact she's female, she gets held to this different standard than characters like Luke or Anakin, which, if you ask me, do more insane stuff in their first movie than someone like Rey.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess the whole point I was making was my whole video wasn't really about that. My video, I wanted to start with that. I acknowledge, yeah, my point was not great. I should have elaborated more in that video specifically. But I think my whole point I was making in that video is on TikTok especially, I think creators use that word too frequently, and I don't think a lot of younger people understand what it means. They use it in a negative light or negative connotation. And I don't think it's necessarily inherently, bad. It's just a characteristic you got to work on. Yeah. So, I don't, that's the whole point of the video. And then obviously I think the whole point I was making was that's the problem I have necessarily with TikTok in general, not just Star Wars TikTok, but TikTok in general, is you make a 1-minute video and then people will misrepresent your point. And yeah, but I'll want to elaborate a little bit more on the point I was making about people liking other female characters. So my whole point was I think males are definitely attracted to more masculine females.
Oh, yeah.
Rey traditionally does not have a more masculine arc. It's more of a feminine arc. That's why people love, I would say, Gina Carano and Cara Dune and Ahsoka. That's why those people, that's why a lot of people like them. And that's not a dig at Rey. That's just why I don't don't like the character. It just doesn't resonate with me. I don't think the character is poorly written. I don't know anything really about writing a movie, but
and it's to that point. A lot of people, especially after the sequels came out, suddenly became critics and knew everything about what is a properly written character. And I talking about when a character is written poorly or not poorly, it kind of is a hard thing to talk about because it is so opinionated. For instance, Anakin Skywalker, in my opinion, in the prequels was a bad character. But to someone else, that could be their favorite character, and his arc was perfect in there. So it comes to a point where it's like, that's an opinion thing based on how you saw it. But are there certain characters who are like, yeah, that's just blatantly wrong? Like, they're doing this in this movie, but then this happens or this happens. And so that's where it kind of gets to this weird kind of stalemate of, is this an opinion of, in my opinion, she was written poorly? Or are you trying to say she was written poorly and you're using no facts to back it up and you're using stuff that you didn't interpret properly? Which is another hard thing about Star Wars fans is a lot of fans are very, stone fist with their opinions. You can't change them. If you do, you are pick me and all these other things, which is it's a terrible fandom. And I'm sorry if you can hear people yelling. My brothers suck at video games and very much like to be known.
So good.
So that's the issue with this whole gender bias thing is sometimes, and it's like you and Choco said, gender bias is being used a lot incorrectly. And inherently, gender bias sounds bad, but it's not always a bad thing. Which is what I love. I think when people hear, oh, this person's being gender biased, they hear like, oh, he's probably questioning what this female can do, but oh, la about the males.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think my whole point was to elaborate a little bit more was, I don't think it's a bad thing when you're calling it out, but I don't think people have the understanding you have, or people understand it differently. Because a lot of times people will associate a bias with like misogyny, or if they say you're racially biased, they'll associate it with you being racist. That's not what it means at all, and I don't think there's the proper education around it. There's a couple creators I was specifically seeing use that term a lot, and it's Kevin Parker and Jay Stoops. And I like some of their content.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with them on some things, but like I just think when they use that term, you're definitely making it so younger people are going to put their shields up and they're gonna deflect, and they're gonna say, oh, I'm not biased or whatever, and then you're gonna make 3 other videos on it and keep talking about it without actually describing what it is. That's my big problem.
Oh, and to your credit, this happens with a lot more characters than just J-Kev and J-Soups, which I would say I'm mutuals with J-Kev. I don't know I haven't seen much of J-Stoops, so I can't really put any input on him. A lot of the things, and even to me, I can personally admit this, is we call it out, but we don't educate. We don't try to say, look, you're doing this, and this is how you can be better. This is how you can stop, holding this person to a pedestal, but you're doing all this to this other character. It's more or less it really is, we're putting our shields up and we're like, no, you can't talk bad like that. And it is a problem with, I wouldn't even say Star Wars fan. I think it's just with any fan base or any person, when someone says something negative about something you like, you're going to try to put like your windshield wipers off and kind of just like deflect. You're not going to try to be like, well, let's hear each other out and not just jump to, you're racist. Like if you say, for instance, you don't like Finn, and people, as this person who loves Finn, that conversation can go anywhere. It can go to a constructive, like, well, this is what I like, but this is what you didn't like, so let's talk. Or this can go to, yeah, you're probably racist just because he's black, isn't it? Which is right. It's such a bad mindset just to jump to that conclusion of, if you don't like this or you do this, you're this or you're that. When it's not that. Some people are just genuinely, they genuinely want to learn, but they get mixed in with this misogyny, gender bias, racist, homophobic, whatever. It sucks. And I wish I could do a better job at conveying how to fix your bias or something. And in some cases, it is a miscall on my part. Sometimes I do miscall people and say, you're gender biased. That's why I don't do many response videos to comments like that. I do like to talk to some of my friends about it to like kind of be like, what's your guys' perspective on this? And a lot of the times they tell me, yeah, that was a bad call. And if you would have made a response video, you would have looked like a clown.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know what you're saying. I think I definitely have a different perspective when it comes to that. I don't, I personally on my TikTok, I don't care what side of the fandom you're on. I don't care if you're the fandom menace or whatever. As long as you not beat a moron. I mean, I don't even read my comments most of the time unless I need a video idea. I don't even. That's how I engage, I guess, with my followers or whatever. And I think my general thought is that it's really like I'm starting to see like Star Wars TikTok as it grows. I'm starting to see it become a lot like Star Wars YouTube as it grew.
Unfortunately.
There's definitely and I would say this. I don't think I think there's going to be a point where we get people like the fandom menace, migrating towards TikTok. I think there's definitely going to be a point that happens. And it's going to be, and I think people do a poor job understanding their perspective because to be honest, I even follow some people there's like one or two people I follow in the fandom menace on YouTube. I don't necessarily agree with their politics or anything, but I just follow their Star Wars takes or whatever because I agree with some of them. But
yeah.
I think the problem is I think that creators on this app that pledge to not make a toxic platform at the same time do a very poor job of living up to that. Like they've culminated their own like bubble. Like there's two bubbles, there's two camps. I think there's one you have to hate the sequels or love them, and there are people that just I think defend them, and you can defend them, that's fine, but like at a point you got to become critical at some point because I don't want to be on either side, because if I'm on either side I'm not doing my job as a fan. I want to be I on my channel I say the sequels are canon, whatever, that's obvious, but at the same time I'm going to be very critical of these movies because to be honest with you, these movies, we're passionate about them, I love them, and to see characters I like or characters not developed the way that they should or I wanted them to, yeah, I'm going to be critical of what you made, and that's what I want, but I also acknowledge the good. So I think that's my big problem. I think creators that pledged a non-toxic platform do a poor job of generating that.
Mm-hmm. Which absolutely to that point is correct. And many creators like to say that, oh, we're trying to create a non-toxic fan base, but they end up creating that very toxic fan base, and it's nothing of like their fault. People like not to call out my bud Jacob. A lot of his responses, they come off as toxic, not because people hate Jacob and it's because he's a sequels fan. It's because that there's no educating in that. When people try to say like they don't like Ray or Ray's the worst character, it's kind of a thing of you can tell someone and who they are just by how they talk to you. If they try to say you're wrong for liking something, you can probably guess what kind of person they are. Or if they're kind of like, why do you like that character, genuinely asking, well, then you can see that type of person. And I think it's a lot of these creators who pledge this, we don't want toxicity. They make these responses and they come off that way. And I do think they mean well. I really do think people like J Kev and at times people like a dude named Kev, Darth Choco, they all mean well. I don't think Choco, J Kev, or all these other creators, I don't think they could hurt a fly without feeling bad. And not to call them soft or anything, but it comes off a certain way when you are that outside perspective. For instance, I followed J Kev for a long time, so I know he means well. But let's say to some new person in the Star Wars fandom, they're scrolling through their TikTok For You page, they see someone like J Kev, they get rubbed the wrong way. Who knows what happens now? it's a thing of we're not educating each other, and we're just screaming at each other. I like Rey. I don't like Rey, but I like her. Mary Sue, Rey Skywalker. It's like you guys, you educate each other. Don't hide behind the shield of I don't want to learn or I don't want to see perspective. Even if, for instance, Rey Skywalker, it's a canon fact. You can't deny it. But some people have trouble accepting it. Instead of just saying you're a moron and it's a canon fact and just get over it, educate them. Try to get them to see the perspective. And if they still don't like it, just try to come to that meet in the middle point where it's like, you know what? I'm not going to win this argument against you, and I don't want to keep arguing. And that's what I do a lot when it comes to talking about Rey with people who don't like her. She personally, for me, I don't really like her character. I'm not going to bash her, because when I think of Star Wars, I think of it if this was happening to me. For instance, the sequels, I love the sequel trilogy. And for obvious reasons, I grew up with it. When I was like 9 years old, we went to go see The Force Awakens. And when I was 15, we went to go see The Rise of Skywalker. So I got to live with that journey of the sequels. And when I hear, people saying, oh, they're going to get rid of the sequels through the World Between Worlds, and that's a whole worm can. That makes this much sense. And I don't understand how something like that even started, which apparently it started from some YouTuber and it spread like a virus. So
I don't know necessarily who the YouTuber is, but I do know there was a Reddit. Really, where this all started was a Reddit leak earlier last year, where they said there was a JJ cut of the movie, and then it became, oh, they're going to retcon the sequels after that, and then it's kind of spiraled than this. But the original Reddit link, or the Reddit leak, was that there was a JJ cut of the movie. But I don't know. I don't think there's. I don't know how much validity there is to that. Probably none. But I mean, again, I'm not a big fan of the movies. To be honest with you, I didn't even want them made because I love the ending of Return of the Jedi. But like you said, I mean, I grew up with them too. I'm 17 now. I was like 12 when The Force Awakens came out. I like that movie a lot. It was my first ever Star Wars movie in theaters, but I don't feel the same way watching it when I watch, Empire, New Hope, Return of the Jedi. It just, I don't feel that way. And then I just feel that, my thing with them is, even though the prequels are Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are hard to watch, at least to me, I feel like it's more of a cohesive story. The problem with the three sequels to me is they feel like three different solo films and to be fair, it should have been one vision, one director.
Absolutely.
It should have been one vision, and I don't care which one it was. I necessarily didn't agree with Ryan's when The Last Jedi came out, but then after seeing The Rise of Skywalker, I'm like, oh, Ryan might have been onto something. But it's just, to me, it was, and I've been critical of Lucasfilm also. I think they do a terrible job with their fans and stuff. I mean, just little stuff like that. I don't think they've done a good job since they bought the company. Maybe with The Mandalorian and Solo and Rogue One, I like a lot, and Clone Wars Season 7. But besides that, I mean, three movies I necessarily don't love. But I'm thankful that they have the company because we're getting all these shows and stuff. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, and that's the kind of mentality that the fandom has at large. I mean, it's been generational. People didn't like The Empire Strikes Back. People then didn't like Return of the Jedi because how could murder bears do something like that? Like destroy the Empire? Didn't Palpatine call them his best legion, and they were killed by murder bears? And then, of course, we know the hate of the prequels, and then the hate of the Clone Wars movie, and then the hate of the sequels, and then of Rogue One, and then of Solo. And so it's something new, not new to Star Wars. It's been here since 1980. I could even argue and say 1977 when it first came out, because we all know Star Wars fans are a bunch of nerds, and they're just science fiction guys, you know. So it's always been a very toxic fan base, but you notice it more now in this day and age because of social media. And people have this thought that their voice, and I don't know how to say this without sounding like wrong, that their voice matters, and everyone's voice matters. Obviously, my opinion matters, your opinion matters, but in the grand scheme of things, we have to remember that Star Wars is for everyone. It's not made for you. It's not made for me. It's not made for the person who introduced it, my dad. It's not made for my brothers who watched it. It's made for everyone. And when people get, you know, disappointed, for instance, I was really disappointed in The Rise of Skywalker. I wanted a better ending. I felt so unfulfilled. It really made me like love The Last Jedi because I was like, wow, you know, a lot of stuff was set up in that movie and it felt a lot of it was thrown out. But I'm not going to go out on the internet and, you know, dox J.J. Abrams or Adam Driver and all these other people just because I wasn't fulfilled. I showed my friend the Star Wars movies for the first time, and The Rise of Skywalker is her favorite. She absolutely loves the movie. And it was like I was saying earlier, I couldn't imagine taking something like that from someone. It's people always in the fandom, they're like, I couldn't, one day I wish I could remember watching Revenge of the Sith for the first time. I was like, but you have those thoughts, but with how you act towards people, and you're saying stuff like the sequels are going to be removed. Oh, my.
We have lost him, folks. We have lost him. All right, he'll be back. He'll be back. Let's remove him 1 sec. We'll add him to the stream when he comes back. Oh yeah, that's an interesting conversation. I think we understand it. See, this is the thing. When you get a longer form discussion and it's not a 1 minute back and forth on TikTok, we can definitely understand each other's conversations a lot better. Yeah, he'll be back in a minute, guys. So we're good. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good conversation. I mean, cool, right? Right? Yeah. Oh, he left. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. He'll be back in a second, guys. So, Wicket, Wicket, you still here, Wicket? Wicket. Who is a Wicket in movies? Wicket. Wicket. 1989, 86. Why did I say 19? I don't know. What's going on? What's going on? I am. Yeah, Wicket. Wicket, what's good, bro? Why did you come to my... Here's the thing. Why are you entertained by this? This is the real question. How are you... Like, this is always something that's weird to me. How are people entertained at listening to me ramble for like an hour, like a night on a stream? I don't understand that. Am I interested? Do I live an interesting life? Do I have interesting perspectives, I guess? Yeah. 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 I don't get it, man. I don't know why. I don't know. It's, I don't care. I don't really care. Like, it's cool to see, like, even like 200 people look at your TikTok. It's pretty weird to think about. 200 people. That's a lot of people. I mean, comparative to the world, it's not. But it's like, it's just cool. Even one person watching me, I don't know. That's just cool. I appreciate that. No, when I take off one day, I'm gonna remember this guy Wicked. My man said he'd be back in a minute. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. I honestly actually encourage people who have different views than me. Those are the people I want to talk to. I don't want to talk to people with the same views. Because that's kind of boring to me. You know what I'm saying, guys? Know what I'm saying? But you're always welcome. I don't get caught up in numbers either. I don't care if I would do this. I just do this as a passion. I do this for fun. We're still in quarantine pretty much. Who knows how long that's going to be? Hopefully by the fall everything will be back to normal. So we'll do this for as long as I want. Plus next year is my senior year of high school. So really nothing. I have nothing my senior year. So I don't have a lot. I still have to do classes and stuff, but I mean I can stream like hours. Wicket, you got any questions, my man? Wicket, you got any questions, my man? For the stream. Wicket. All right, he's back. See?
Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I can't remember what was that. What were we talking about? I can't remember now.
So I was
yeah, go
talking
ahead.
about taking experience from people. It's again like I was saying, people talk about wanting to see, Revenge of the Sith for the first time again. And it's like we all, we think about that stuff, but it's like with these people who love the sequels, why is it okay suddenly to take what they love away? And that's what it is. It's never this common thing of getting to common ground of like, look, you like this, I like this. And that's just it. And I've just gotten into the Marvel fandom. I just started watching Marvel for the first time. I just got through all the movies. And I have noticed that it's like that with the movies. I've noticed the fans always have this mutual, you like that movie, but I like this movie more. But I notice it's just like the Star Wars fans with characters. That's when people have issues. And we all look at characters differently for different reasons. You may look at Rey for that reason, but I may look at her for this reason. And that's kind of this weird stalemate that fans, I would say, in any fandom get at is trying to prove superiority amongst each other. And it doesn't lead to a healthy conversation.
No, I totally agree. But to add on to your Marvel point, I guess I think, in my point of view, I guess from the people I've talked to and friends I have, the Marvel discussions I think are a lot easier because here's why. Marvel, I think, in my opinion, has delivered with their product, and I think it's a lot easier for us to have a conversation. There's only one or two movies like recently off the top of my head that there's a divide on, like Captain Marvel. A lot of people don't like that movie. I don't like that movie, but like there's they've made seven other good ones in the last 3 years, so we don't really we're just like we don't care about it. That's where I stand on Marvel. I think it's definitely way less toxic, and I think it's a byproduct of Marvel has done a great job with their universe, and Disney, Star Wars, they've done good. They're progressing. I think they had all the production trouble with Solo. Boba Fett was supposed to be a movie that never happened because of production trouble. We had the sequels, and Colin Trevorrow was supposed to make Episode 9. We saw the leak for that, like pretty much the whole script, and they said he was fired because of creative differences. And I'm like, well, this would have followed Rian Johnson's movie a lot better. So, it's kind of, Kathleen Kennedy has made mistakes, and I'm not gonna say Kathleen Kennedy has friggin', like all the YouTubers do, make her have red eyes and she hates people or whatever. She hates Disney, Star Wars. She hates Star Wars. She hates men. I don't believe that necessarily, but I do think there are definitely better people for the job.
Oh,
But
yeah.
she's done okay,
I
and
mean,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
mean, send over Kevin Feige. He'll make everything better. I
No,
mean,
yeah, I
look
mean,
what he's done for Marvel. Look what he's done for Marvel.
I like Feige, and some of the stuff I've heard. There's obviously a rumor that he's going to produce a movie, a Star Wars movie. So, I mean, I know he's very knowledgeable about Star Wars from the stuff I've heard.
Oh yeah.
But I think he's doing his thing with Marvel. If yeah, I definitely think Star Wars can learn something from Marvel, and I think they're going to do that with the Mandalorian, Rangers, Ahsoka, and Boba, and
Oh yeah.
so it's definitely going to culminate into like an Endgame style with Thrawn and maybe a Darth Ezra or something like that. But um, yeah, so I guess my whole thing is like I think the Star Wars fandom is very toxic, but I think it's because the movies are specifically the sequel movies are very divided amongst the fandom, and the Marvel movies are universally loved, especially the last about 3 to 4 years. So I guess
And
that's the difference in the fandoms.
and that's what I've talked to many friends who are both Marvel and Star Wars, and we all agree on this statement that Marvel movies overall are better than Star Wars movies. I mean, let's take Endgame and compare it to any of the three final trilogy movies. You mean you don't get much better than that? And and we all even say that we think the characters of Star Wars are better than Marvel characters. For instance, someone like I was brand new. My friends were showing me the movies, and I was like, I'm having trouble relating to any of these people. Where can I relate to Tony Stark? I'm not some mad genius who has this fall. I'm not I'm not Peter Parker where I just know stuff. I'm just smart. I'm not Steve Rogers where I was given these abilities because of my heart and believing my country was this and that. That's and that's the thing is Star Wars characters I think are more fleshed out. For instance, take someone like Anakin Skywalker and compare him to someone like I don't know, I'd say even Captain America. I have easier time understanding Anakin's character than Captain America's character. He kind of feels like just the goody two shoes who, we got to fight with our hearts. We can't use our brain, even though logically this would make more sense. Our hearts don't go for it, and that's the thing is, Star Wars has a good way of developing characters. Fans have a bad way of reacting to characters. And I wouldn't even say Star Wars. I would go Marvel. I've heard nothing but bad stuff about Captain Marvel and Brie Larson. I haven't even watched the movie. I'm that afraid that I'm gonna dislike it, and I'm gonna have to be like everyone else and be like, "Yep, easily the worst Marvel movie." So it's like I didn't even like her character in Endgame. I was like, "Who is this girl?"
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
it was weird.
yeah. I mean, I'm more of a I'm Star Wars is definitely my number one, but Marvel is I'm more of a casual for Marvel. But it just I would say what I would say about Captain Marvel is characters. It's the way they built her up with the end credit scene in Infinity War, and I just the movie didn't hit. It did poor. I mean, it obviously made money, but
Hmm.
it just didn't feel right. It just didn't, especially, and I think it was because they had the success with Black Panther. They had Infinity War before that. You know, Civil War, Ultron, Ant Man, or
Hmm.
Ant Man 2 wasn't great, but um,
You didn't
yeah,
like
they had
Ant-Man and
those.
the Wasp?
Yeah, yeah. My bad.
Oh my
That movie.
gosh.
That movie. No, 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 no. That movie's it's not as good as the original. It's okay, but yeah, I don't. To be honest, it's okay. But Captain Marvel is easily my. It's easily my probably bottom three. Thor: The Dark World is easily my least favorite.
Oh my, we have such differing opinions on Marvel movies. I love
Yeah,
Thor: The Dark World.
no, it's I think well, you differ than I think a lot of people in that, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
I don't think it's a top 5 movie. I don't think it was a bad movie though.
It's definitely it's bottom 3 for me. That one, probably Iron Man 2 is pretty low.
Okay, I didn't like Iron Man.
Um, I gotta think. Probably listen, I differ on this one. Civil War for me is the top 5 one because it's because
Oh
it's because
no,
it's
I
one of
was
my
gonna. What?
because it's one of my first Marvel movies I saw in theaters. So it's definitely top 5. Black Panther's definitely up in the top 7. Probably Endgame and Infinity War up there. Um, yeah, I have to rewatch them all. I haven't watched them all, and I haven't watched the older ones in a while, so I can't really. It's harder to rank those ones, but
Hmm.
I guess I don't know. I don't organize these things. I usually organize. So I guess we have a question here from why did you start making videos? I guess on TikTok.
Oh, for both of us. I was inspired by people like Choco, and I just like lore videos. And it was also a chance for me to start reading books. For school, a little thing about me is I struggled with reading for a long time. I couldn't stay invested in a book. And of course, that made things like book projects, impossible. So it was kind of a thing of like pushing me out of my comfort zone. And now I love to read books. I have, I don't, I have the Force Awakens. I have both Force Awakens novels right next to me. I'm currently reading those. I didn't finish them. I had bought them for a school project. Didn't finish them, but now I'm reading those. I'm reading many other books, but it was just because I was so fascinated in lore, and I wanted to talk more about the sequels with people who like them and people who didn't like them. It was kind of like what I think Element said on one of his podcasts is if we have differing opinions on lists, for example, like me and you on Marvel movies, you're the person I want to talk to because I want to know why you feel the way you do. If we agreed on everything, that would be a boring conversation. We would just be praising Endgame, like it was such a good movie. But I want to know why you don't like Dark World, or why do you like Civil War so much? That's the person who I would want to talk to. It's the person who disagrees with me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I definitely try to do that. I don't know if you've seen what I do on YouTube and stuff. I definitely try to have conversations with creators in general because I think a lot of them would benefit from a longer form discussion because with a minute I've been very critical. I love TikTok, obviously, right?
Mhm.
It's definitely one of the apps I use the most. But the big problem I have with it is it's only a minute. I only got a minute to tell my opinion. And the problem is if, the problem I see a lot is not just with Star Wars videos, but political or Marvel or whatever is people will misconstrue what somebody says and then it falls, it's a rabbit hole of like people just like slandering your name or just
Mhm.
saying flat out wrong stuff. And I encourage longer form discussion face to face because I can understand people's point of view a lot better. Now, I had a conversation with um, Choco, and me and Choco, I immediately when he duetted me, I was like, all right, I got to duet this and say, yeah, I'm willing to have a longer form discussion because um, I remember in my comment section, I was getting a mixed bag of people who were like defending me, but they were
Mhm.
defending me for the wrong reason. They were like, "Oh yeah, Ray's an awful character, and Mary Sue, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, that's not who I am. That's
Right,
not what you're gonna
right.
get from me." But I don't care if they follow me,
Mhm.
and if they, and I already had like my first person, like I made a video saying, yeah, the sequels are fine or whatever. Like they're not gonna get decanonized. I just don't like them. The person's like, "I'm gonna unfollow you," and I just ignored it. I'm like, okay, just like
And,
okay,
and
cool.
that's the thing is when you get into TikTok, you are constrained to a minute. You have so much that you need to get through. For instance, when I had tagged you in that video of kind of my response, there was so much that went on in your video. I can't respond to it all in a minute because I'm doing it point by point, and I don't want to make 1,000 videos, so I'm sort of rushing through. And so, for instance, going back and watching my video and then your videos, I at some points I did strawman your argument, but it's because I was rushing through it so much I couldn't get to what I was trying to say. So it made it look like, oh my gosh, this idiot just missed my entire point. What is he doing? And then he's gonna say that I look bad. Like, you missed everything. But you are constrained to that minute long, and it sucks. And when it comes to things like YouTube, when it comes to YouTube or streaming, you get this more open face to face. I can understand your point more, and you can understand my point more. With TikTok, of course, they're trying to implement these 3-minute videos, but it's coming along so slow that conversations like gender bias and misogyny and racism, they're only constrained to a minute right now. And that's a hard conversation to have with someone in 1 minute. I mean, that's like, you're going to need some Spark Notes for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's and the problem is TikTok is made for you to have that like 15-second point. It's not even made for a minute. Because
Right.
those videos you make for a minute, a lot of people don't watch. For my channel, a lot of my traffic is from videos I make in like a 5-second like funny Star Wars thing, like a meme. That's how I get most of my views. Like I want to make longer form videos, that's what I usually do. But because I don't really care about. I'm just doing it for fun, whatever. I don't care about views or followers. It doesn't matter to me. So but yeah, it's really interesting. I'm like, because when I watched your video, I'm like, I felt the same way. I'm like, oh, this idiot just like didn't understand what I was saying, and that's not the hope. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a duet and then say my piece, and then the other problem I have is like TikTok's like Twitter. You only have so many characters. Like sometimes you would write
Yes.
4 comments, and I'd be like, I'm not gonna read this. I'm just being honest with you. I'd read one and then be like, okay, this is what he thinks, without reading the rest, because I don't really read my comments. I might get like 50 comments overnight if I make a hit video or something. I'm like, I'm not gonna look through them all. So I don't like it doesn't bother me. Like I know some creators that I've become friends with. They're like, oh, I like to like all my comments and stuff. And I used to be like that, but now I'm just like, I don't, because it's nice to like, I'll like people who consistently comment, who are like my followers, because they're loyal to me and they like my stuff. I'll like those, but like, I don't, if you're just a regular person saying something dumb, not gonna like it.
Right. And that's the other thing, is it feels like a lot of the time when people, they do leave those comments like, if you like the sequels and you're not a fan, it really is like bullying, because they're trying to get a reaction out of you. They want you to respond because you're giving them attention. And so what I've just done recently is, if you start being toxic, if you like, let's also get this across. Not liking the sequels does not make you toxic. It's how you go about it. For instance, with you, I don't get that you're toxic from the sequels. They just weren't for you. You just didn't like them. And that's how I am with the prequels. I just didn't get with them. They just weren't the movies that I identify with. I identify more with the original trilogy than the sequels, but with the prequels, not as much. And when people make, gatekeeping comments, like, there's a difference between saying I don't like the sequels or you're not a fan if you like the sequels. Two different messages there. One is opening conversation, one is shutting it right when it starts. And so I just delete comments. I try not to block, because that seems like you're the gatekeeper, because then it's like, well, now you're not listening to my opinion. You're the bad guy here.
Yeah. No, I definitely I definitely get what you're saying. I have the mantra like I know it's more of a like a harsh, or like not a harsh mantra, but like it's like one I could block people, but I think it's, even if they're saying something dumb, I don't really care. So I don't block them, because then they're gonna say, "Oh, this guy blocked me because he doesn't like my opinion." So I'm
Right.
not gonna do it. I rarely respond to comments unless I like feel like it. That's how I do it. I don't engage. I don't really comment on other to for me, I don't really watch Star Wars TikTok because it's Star Wars TikTok to me is a really it's different because on Star Wars YouTube, it's less engaging. Star Wars TikTok, there's enough, even the big creators are small enough now where like you could still engage with them as a smaller creator.
Mhm.
So like there, you can get into these threads arguing with people. I'm like, I don't feel like doing that. And the other problem I have is I think I have a good friend I've built on the app. His name's Palpatine Politics, and I became friends with him over a situation with JCav, who made a video. My friend made a video saying Jyn Erso was the first female lead, and he forgot about Rey, that The Force Awakens was before Rogue One,
Mhm.
and then JCav liked comments like calling this kid a smooth brain. And I'm like, that's not a good look. So my friend Palpatine Politics made a video on it, and like the problem I have, okay, I know I don't like the guy a lot. I respect his opinion, but he does like when he preaches, I don't want to build a toxic community, but at the same time he'll like comments that are like, you're indirectly going after the person you duetted. So like that's the whole problem, and I'm willing to have a conversation with him. I'd like to have one with him because his perspective is interesting to me. But again, it goes back to that point. Like they misunderstood each other's points, so they made like 3 videos on it. And I'm like, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to make 3 videos on a
Yeah,
drama and just drag it
exactly.
out.
That's
That's
why
that.
when you made your videos, I didn't stitch or duet, because I don't want drama, because this can be something that we're doing right now. It can be easily resolved. Let's just talk, plain and
Yeah,
simple. And something that I don't like about Palpatine Politics, and I'll be perfectly honest, I hate his guts. He is the epitome of the worst part of Star Wars, and his surrounding friends. But what sucks is I've talked to his friends, and some of his friends have let me know some stuff really shady, really sad, that a lot of them barely even watch the sequels, and they're not saying like they're being like held at gunpoint, or if you don't do this, then we're gonna do this. It's more or less like they want views, they want attention, even if they know they're hate. Like I talked to one of them, and I'm gonna keep them anonymous. I don't want drama to happen because of something that I was told from them.
oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I don't
And
care.
they were like, I do this for views. And then they rewatched sequels, and they were like, yeah, I really like them. And I was like, dude, you know, for instance, I was a person who hated the sequels. I hated them. I hated The Last Jedi. I thought it was the worst movie I've ever seen. But it was because that's what I was spoonful to think. I was told to think it was the worst movie. And right before I went to go see The Rise of Skywalker, Disney Plus had come out. So all the movies were on Disney Plus. And I had watched all the movies through because, it was the end of the saga. And I got to The Last Jedi, and I was like, I'm not excited for this. I'm going to hate it. I watched it. You can see the poster right there. I love the movie. After seeing it, after not going in with the I'm going to hate it mindset, it easily became my favorite movie. And it's not because, oh, I'm different, you know, stroking my beard. I don't even have a beard, but it was the movie was so different to me, and I had went in with The Rise of Skywalker. I wasn't fulfilled necessarily with The Rise of Skywalker. I liked the movie. I would have preferred something different if we got the chance. Every time I get into this conversation of, well, what's the one movie you would remake? I was like, it's always a toss up between Attack of the Clones and The Rise of Skywalker, but I always land on The Rise of Skywalker. I say the movie is a good movie. It doesn't fit with the sequel trilogy or the Skywalker saga at whole, in my opinion, at least.
Definitely. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I've seen most of the Disney Star Wars movies open tonight. So I didn't go in with anything.
Right.
The Force Awakens, I liked it. I was really happy. Rogue One, liked it. Um, Last Jedi, I remember watching it. I was okay with it. It's like, let's get this rolling. And then Luke shows up. I still remember my reaction. I'm like, oh my God, Luke showed up. It's gonna be crazy now. And then when it was the Force projection, I was like, what? This is like I was upset. I was upset because I feel like they did Luke and Anakin always first and second of my favorite, characters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, they kind of did him. I wish it was a lot better of a story. I think that's my biggest problem. I wish George Lucas always said it's like poetry, it rhymes. I wish Luke was more of a Obi-Wan type, and I wish I've said this in a couple of my videos. I wish Luke died like Obi-Wan, where Kylo slashes him and Luke disappears. Like the Force projection, obviously great Force feat, probably the greatest thing we'll see for a while as the Force feat, but it just didn't feel right, and it still doesn't. I've probably honestly only watched The Last Jedi twice since then. Maybe I'll like it the next time I watch it, but it's just not. I try to distance myself from those movies. I'll still watch them if they're on my television or if I want to watch something, but
Right.
I feel the same way with The Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones. If it's on TV, yeah, I'll watch a couple scenes, but like, I don't really want to watch and invest myself in um this movie. And I think it's the opposite effect for like the Revenge of the Sith. That movie for me when I was younger, I always liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But now seeing like the way the internet reacts to it, I'm like, the movie's not that good. The movie is not that like I like I see some people like I'm like the top 3. I'm like, okay, I respect your opinion, obviously, but like I feel like we've gone to this cycle now where like Revenge of the Sith is top tier, like Star Wars. I'm like, I don't know about that, and
Right.
that's cool. That's cool that people love it. Personally, my Star Wars is the Clone Wars. That's what I grew up on, and I love it. I've always loved it, and it was great for me. It was great closure for me to finally see it end
Mm-hmm.
this past year. So, and I guess I'll address the point on Palpatine politics. Me and him have talked a lot. I don't know a lot of his friends, but um, yeah, he's a good guy to me. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but um, yeah, he's just we differ like that. Me and him are gonna start a podcast like Choco and Element have. So that's where I stand with him. But I had a conversation with him and this other guy who made a video duetting him. And yeah, we hashed things out. We're all close friends now, and I feel like that's the great thing about this longer form discussion. Um, and just talking on platforms where I can have this longer form discussion. But the problem is a lot of people won't watch this and they'll still see those
Mm-hmm.
TikTok videos and be like, oh, these two hate each other, but they don't
And
know.
that was my initial thing about coming on to talk to you about this was not everyone's going to see this. Not everyone's going to even know that we even talked. And it's just like you said, people are going to think, oh, these two have it out for each other. They hate each other. The thing was, is I never hated you. It's just we had differing POVs on things, and that was really it. It wasn't a case of, oh, this guy probably hates every female character. Screw him. It's like, no, he just had a different opinion or a point of view on something. And TikTok doesn't allow for people to have live discussions unless you have 1,000 followers. And unfortunately, I have not reached that point yet. So that's the problem is I think things like lives on TikTok should be given to someone when they reach 100 followers. And it's so things like this don't happen where people are like, oh, this guy hasn't posted anything about him. He clearly has something out for him when right now we're talking and I don't feel any,
No, I don't.
toxicity going. I just feel like we're having a civil, very good conversation, very instructive, very, constructive. We're getting to something. And that's what I feel a lot of people on TikTok don't want to have. They claim they do, but they don't. They always reject it. It's always that kind of call of like, wait, well, why don't we talk this out? Since, TikTok character limit and, hold on. And their time limit, hold on. But it's this time limit of TikTok, which sucks. 60 seconds is not enough. And even then, the algorithm doesn't push many 60-second videos. I very rarely see 60-second videos. And when I do, if they're not interesting in the first few seconds, I scroll away. And that's the problem, is TikTok's algorithm wants you to make these longer videos, but they don't push them. So when it comes to explaining something like, someone asked me about how the dyad works. I can't talk about how the dyad works in 15 seconds. I'm going to be talking so fast, I'm going to be talking about something else. You just don't have that time constraint. It sucks. It's very obvious what the algorithm pushes. Likes, just sharing and copying link and commenting. That's what it pushes, and that's what it wants. And you'll notice on someone like my page, I average 100 views per video. That's my average. Would I love it to be higher? Of course. But it's when I make these other videos, I get over 1,000 views. And you notice those, and it's those videos that get a lot of comments and whatnot. And you just notice how far and few between they are, that it kind of feels, sucky to make content, because sometimes you can't have these kind of good conversations, and so TikTok needs to fix their stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I was just looking at my views and stuff, but when I make a longer video, like I've been doing recently, I average about 200 views. But when I make a 15-second video where I just put a random fact on, I average like 1,000. So like that's, and I don't really necessarily care about views or anything. I like to just talk and give my opinion. That's what I don't care about followers necessarily, either. But I totally agree. TikTok needs to do a better job pushing those 60-second videos, and us to have these live discussions on a TikTok like platform, because like you said, somebody may stumble upon my video on the For You page and your video and be like, oh, these two. And I feel like the problem was, I talked to Choco and I was like, hey, I'm thankful you do edit my video and stuff. It definitely pushed the video, and I definitely had a good conversation with you. But the big problem is like, I feel like now I'm going to be put on this side of the fandom, which I'm not. It's not the side I'm on. Like, cause like, and he, me and him had a great conversation, like I said, and it just, we agree on most of this. Like, the problem is me and you disagree on like 1% of things. 99% of things we agree on.
Yeah.
And the 1% we disagree on was a TikTok video. And then it got, and I'm not usually like I don't usually duet people unless it's I have to call it out. I made a duet the other day. Somebody said like, if Rey Skywalker's your favorite character, you're this and this. And then I made a video and I said a lot of the points you made earlier. Like, how would you feel if I decanonized the prequels? You would feel awful, right? But yeah, and I also call it out too when I made a video saying that people who blindly defend the sequels a lot, I made a video calling them out too, saying like, you're kind of also doing the same thing. You're kind of hurting the fandom too, because you're just blindly defending stuff. We got to be still critical of this, because if we're not critical, they're just going to give us the same stuff.
Right. And it's accepting this low bar that it feels the fans are kind of at right now. And some fans hold certain things to certain pedestals. We know this. We hold certain characters to different pedestals, movies, TV shows. Like, it's all different. It's a hard fandom to be a part of, just because of how divisive it is. And I wouldn't even say the sequels caused this division. I wouldn't even say the prequels. I would say this stuff has just been here since the start. People hated Luke because he was so whiny, he was bratty, but it's like, the issue is I don't think Star Wars works as trilogies. I don't think they work as trilogies. I really think they work as standalone movies. I definitely don't think this should have been episode 7, 8, 9. I definitely think this should have been Star Wars The Force Awakens, then Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and then Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Separate the numbers part of them. Get rid of episode 4 and 5 and 6, 1, 2, and 3, and just make them standalones. Make it Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, Star Wars: Attack of the Clones. Because when you get into that, you're going to get into this sort of bubble system, like you said. I like this, or I like this. And there never can seem to be this kind of like middle ground where we can all be like, I just like Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's really it.
No, I totally agree. That's an interesting point. You know, I still like the number system for specifically the Skywalker saga, but um, a movie I've said is one of the most underrated is Solo. It's just a standalone movie that doesn't have a lot of ramifications on, you know, the Star Wars universe as a whole. It's just a good, fun story about Han Solo. That's what it is. And that's what I think I love. I especially love Mandalorian season 1, just a standalone thing. But I also love Mandalorian season 2 because it ties into this bigger thing. And I think the Mandalorian has done such a fantastic, you know, again, like I said earlier, critical of the sequels, but they're going in the right direction. The Mandalorian has, it's a different side of Star Wars, and it's a side of Star Wars I'm glad they've explored. You know, I'm glad they brought back Rebels and Clone Wars characters. That was obviously, you know, great to see. John and Dave have done a fantastic job with that show. So I guess let me ask you about the Mandalorian. What do you like most about it? And yeah, what do you like most about it?
Kind of like you, I really like season 1. It's disconnected from almost everything. There is no Luke Skywalker. There is no Han Solo, Princess Leia. It's just the Mandalorian. It's about this Mandalorian who goes on this adventure and becomes a dad. Like that. That's really it. And something of season 2, from the very first episode, Cobb Vanth coming in. Now, I was a big fan of Cobb Vanth from the Aftermath books, but I really got this feel of like, I really think the season is just going to be big mission, small mission, big mission, small mission, big mission, small mission, big mission, end of season. And that's kind of the pattern that it followed for a lot of the season. And it really did hinder on these big things in each episode. Cobb Vanth, you know, the Rebel pilots in the cave one, you know, I think that's very commonly one of the least favorite episodes of the show so far. There just wasn't a lot to it. There wasn't a lot of meat to it. Was there a lot of character in it? Of course. We got to see Baby Yoda eat eggs, which I thought the Twitter controversy about that was amazing. I love that kind of controversy. The just kind of like, why is this a thing? Why are we arguing about this? But then it came, Bo-Katan and the Ahsoka name drop. And then, oh no, sequel trilogy tie-ins? And then the Ahsoka episode. I mean, just the title alone is fan service in itself. I mean,
Yeah,
that's really what I call Mando season 2, is the fan service season.
right. I definitely know what you're saying, but I remember when I'm big into like leak culture, like rumor culture, I guess, about like what type of characters are going to be in shows. I remember hearing all the way back in April, Rosario Dawson cast as Ahsoka. Tamora Morrison might be playing Boba again. I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. Now, I would say the bright spot of Mando season 2 was it made Boba Fett a great character. I mean, to me, he's just a cool guy, just a guy in green armor who just stood there. That's how I always felt about him as a kid, and I really loved his character in Mando, even though he didn't do a lot. But in the moments he did stuff, it was like, oh, this is cool. But I agree with you, it was fan service. But the thing is that I think it was fan service that was executed perfectly. It didn't feel forced.
Yes, fan service done right.
Yeah, it didn't feel forced. And I remember speculating who the Jedi was going to be. Everybody said every name on the planet besides Luke. And we didn't think that Luke was the most logical choice because
Right.
we didn't want it to tie into the Skywalkers or anything. And I remember seeing some people on Twitter complaining about Luke being in it, saying that, oh, of course they need to rely on Luke to be in it or Skywalker. I'm like, but he was in it. But did you see what it did? It captivated a lot of fans, even with him being in it for 5 minutes. And he's not going to be in it probably for a while until Mando presumably gets Grogu back. So
Right.
like you get 5 minutes of Luke. That's it. That's it.
Mhm.
That's not. It doesn't hurt the show. But I think Mando season three, where it's a good show now, but it needs to take that giant leap where they need to stop the Adventure of the Week. It needs to be a story now about he's the leader of Mandalore. The people would tell. I was talking to some of my friends. They're like, "Where does the story go from here?" I'm like, "The story is more complex now. He's the
Right.
leader of his entire people. He went from a just a normal bounty hunter who was disillusioned with the way when he had this child, now is the leader of his people and has to unite a bunch of Mandalorians. And I
Right.
think it's a more, complex story. And I don't know where this is all going to tie in with Boba, Ahsoka, and Rangers. I mean,
Right.
I presume Thrawn is going to be the big bad, but I think it might be like a darker Ezra, who I think is going
Yeah.
to be the bad.
Something that I've even thrown out is, what if the armor is the big bad for the season? What
Mm.
if, what if, something that I didn't like about the Mandalorian, and it's no fault to the team. It's they put those parts at the beginning of the episode to kind of hint at what's going to happen. So, for instance, I think it was in the Heiress. It had parts of the armor saying like, "You must return this to the Jedi," and it's like, no, no, don't start doing this. So I always had to like fast forward because I didn't want any sort of spoilers. I didn't want to think that we were gonna see uh, people like the Jedi already, because we know that was his objective from the end of season one. And so I always just skip forward to like when the scene starts. Uh, for instance, when they were on the Razor Crest and it was all destroyed in the Heiress, I skipped to that part because I didn't want to be spoiled. And something that I really would like is for the armor to be the big bad, or the bad of season three, not the big bad. I definitely think Thrawn's the big bad of all the shows. I don't know if it'll culminate to a movie. I think it should. I mean,
I think it's definitely going to. I'm pretty sure that it's going to culminate. The rumor right now is it might be the 2027 movie that Feige's reportedly going to produce, but we don't. That's very speculative. That's way down the line. But I mean, that sounds pretty logical to where it's all going to culminate. I could definitely see that.
because the issue with these shows is they're not premiering all on this at the same time. We're gonna get Book of Boba Fett this year, and presumably into next year. Then we're getting The Mandalorian season three. Then we're getting either Ahsoka or Rangers. Like these aren't shows that are coming out simultaneously; they're coming separate. And what's most likely that's obviously going to lead to most fans is when either the last season. I mean, is Ahsoka even going to be a multi-season show? Like, has that even been like talked about?
I'm pretty sure it's a mini series, so it's gonna be one season, most likely. That's probably gonna be the last thing they do. I would guess. I'm not sure, but I think that's gonna be the last thing they do.
Right, and not to mention all of these rumors about a Mandalorian game. Uh, I think we're getting a Mando novel or novelization coming out here soon for I think season one.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out, but it hasn't come out yet because COVID and stuff. So it hasn't come out, but it's gonna come out.
Yeah, so it's like we're getting all of these stories, and so when it leads up to that, what can come next? We don't know. But I think the armor should be the bad of the season. Have like question Din, like, have you ever removed your helmet in front of someone alive? And have Bo-Katan right next to him when she asks. Is would
Yeah, definitely.
would Bo really be able to go that far to rat him out?
Yeah,
Just
I
be like,
mean,
you know what? I want the dark saber, and you wronged me, so I'm gonna wrong you now.
yeah, definitely. I could definitely see that. I think the only problem I had with the season was I wish they developed Moff Gideon even more. He's like the problem. Season one, I really liked him in season one. I'm like, season two, you got to develop him a lot. I saw seeds of that, and then now he's captured. I'm like, oh, but I don't want him to do that stupid thing they do in a lot of shows where they're like, oh, we had Moff Gideon as the big bad for the first two seasons. Now let's put another Imperial guy. No, 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 don't do that. Do something interesting like the Armorer, and then have like teases of Thrawn or something like that. But I really love the show. It's definitely a step in the right direction,
For
in
sure.
my opinion. Other people can disagree, but that's okay. Yeah, that's where I stand on that. Let me ask, what are you most anticipating for the new projects that were announced in December? What is your most anticipated show?
There are a lot of shows. So, I mean, honestly, and this is going to be biased as hell, but Bad Batch, one of them for sure. And that's totally not because it's the Clone Wars sequel. Totally not. That's most definitely the reason. I love Clone Wars. I do think Rebels is like a smidge better, but I mean, come on. Like you have arcs like Siege of Mandalore, Mortis, the Citadel, Umbara. Like that's like I say S tier Star Wars.
Oh,
That,
definitely. It definitely added a lot of lore that we look back on now and we're like, wow. Like especially as I get older, I'm like, wow. This is like I watched the Mortis arc the other day because it was one of my favorite arcs because it dealt with the mythical side of the Force, which I really love. Um, and I was like, wow, this still holds up today. And I want to touch a little bit on Rebels. I watched it the first two seasons, and where it misses for me is don't feel I feel like it's like they tried to mimic like Kanan is like Obi-Wan, just a younger version in the original trilogy. Luke is like kind of like Ezra, whiny and stuff, and I'm like, these characters don't resonate. Kanan and Hera definitely resonated for me, but the episodes I felt were the best were the ones where I had my Clone Wars characters, where I had Rex, where I had Ahsoka. That's where the show missed. When I had a like an episode where they're stealing stuff, I'm like, this is I don't really care.
right.
That's just how I feel. That's just how I feel. But people would say, well, what about the Mandalorian? Well, with the Mandalorian, I'm still engaged. Even the only bad episode I will say in the Mandalorian is season one, episode 5 with Toro. That's easily the worst. That might be the worst thing Filoni's wrote. I don't know what he was. Filoni wrote that episode, I think, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, oh, this is bad. But the Mandalorian is still good because I'm still engaged with the story, even though I don't have past characters. The problem with Rebels was I just didn't feel engaged. That's how I feel. And some people, I know a lot of people who love Ezra and Sabine and Hera, and that's great. That's cool. I don't feel that.
Right before I joined this, I just got done talking about how good Sabine and Ezra are as a ship. So, uh, and that's the thing is, I completely disagree with you on that front. I think the thing is people try to compare it too much to Clone Wars. Like, oh, this is Clone Wars does this. So it's like you can't compare it to Clone Wars because it doesn't try to be Clone Wars.
No,
I
I
say
agree.
I say that Clone Wars had the easier job. You're developing Obi-Wan, your Anakin relationship, and all these other characters. You only really had a few characters who you introduced, like Ahsoka, who were brand new. Rebels had it completely different, where they had an entire new cast of people. Like no one knew who Ezra was, no one knew who Kanan Jarrus was, and that's where I think Rebels does it better. Is I think the character building in Rebels is superb over Clone Wars. Something that I don't like about Clone Wars, and more specifically Ahsoka, is a lot of people fell in love with her because she grew up, but it felt like it was so rushed. Like what happened to the season one Ahsoka where she's failing and she's learning, so all of a sudden she's cutting heads off. Like where I didn't feel the jump from Ahsoka in season one to season, I think that was season 3 or 4 when she went to that planet with Lux. I don't
Oh,
remember.
that's probably I think season 4 or season 5, maybe. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I definitely know what you're saying now because season 1 was a lot about her. failing. She failed in the Ryloth arc with her when the ships. She lost half of her her fleet, I guess. Yeah, I know what you're saying now. Definitely, I definitely see that. But I think the whole point was as she grew up, she became better. I guess I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. I haven't watched all of the Clone Wars in a while, but and that's fine that we disagree on Rebels. I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
I know a lot of people love the show, and it's like, and I know I'm gonna get. I know I say this all the time. I watched season one. I'm like, this is god awful. But then I'm like, I loved season one as of the Clone Wars because that's what I grew up with. I was like
Yeah.
a little kid watching that, and when I watched season one and two, now I'm like, what is this? Some of the arcs,
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is happening? Why is this like? It's just like I'm like now I understand it as I'm older, but that's totally fine that you love Rebels more. I actually want to hear that perspective because me and my friends were like, oh, I mean, half of them didn't watch Rebels, or half of them were like me. We just didn't care. We didn't like it. We watched it, but we just didn't like it.
Right. And something that I fault Rebels for a lot is season one was too much about Ezra. Something that I really admired about Clone Wars was the show was it was very obvious who the show was about. It was about Anakin Skywalker.
Hmm.
But not everything was about him. There were these Obi-Wan going to Mandalore arcs, Ahsoka and Lux episodes. As much as I don't like the arc D Squad, it wasn't about Anakin. And that's something that I liked is that even in season one, the show wasn't entirely about him, but it was his story. And that is what I think season one of Rebels kind of missed a lot of people on. You have this entire crew who faced almost no character development until season two. So that's my big fault to Rebels is like you kind of miss the mark on characters like Zeb or Sabine because they don't get their development until season two and three. And for all I know, the best way to explain Sabine in season one is girl with weird hair and Mandalorian helmet.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no three dimension to her. In season three, however, especially with the episode Trials of the Darksaber, she becomes a huge three-dimensional character. She faces her past. She accepts the Darksaber, which even though randomly on TikTok that has caused so much drama about her and the Darksaber. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You know, so my big problem with the show is the first episode I loved was the episode with Ahsoka and Vader. It's the first. That's the end of. I believe that's the finale of season two, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
Twilight of the
Uh,
Apprentice.
yeah, yeah, right. And then season three, I like a couple episodes. It does get better. I will give it credit. Season four was good. Was good. There was a lot of solid parts, but I'm like, oh, it's already over. It's like I didn't
Yeah,
feel. That's just how I feel about it. But
right.
I want to touch on that Sabine point a little bit because this is a big problem I see in the fandom is people will say, "Oh, this is a plot hole," when really it's not a plot hole because it hasn't been explained yet.
Yes. Oh, the plot holes of
Like,
Star Wars fans.
I'm like, guys, you realize that season two was just released. They're gonna explain. I guarantee you, they will explain why
Mhm.
Bo-Katan can't take it now. It's probably a good
Right.
reason.
Right. There could probably be 1,000 reasons. Maybe when she started her reign with the Darksaber, it didn't go very well. So now she wants to get it the right way. And so it's like, just because it's not explained does not mean it is a plot hole. Like there was especially Rise of Skywalker. Look at all these things that happened in this movie and they weren't explained right away. Dude, it doesn't have to be explained in a 3-paragraph essay in the middle of the movie. That was something about the prequels I didn't like, is they went too much into explaining things. Midichlorians, for example. That scene with Anakin and Qui-Gon, I always skip over it because I'm like, it makes me dislike the prequels more and more because it's like, don't explain it. That's why I love the Force so much, is because the less I know about it, the more I love it.
I understand. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I definitely love the Force because I love the mystic. I love the mystical side of it, the godlike side of Star Wars, which I really love. Um, but yeah, like the problem I have with the Rise of Skywalker is it's pacing. I guess that's my biggest
Oh,
problem. When I watched
sucks.
that when I watched that movie, I'm like, holy, it's like 7 different places at once. Like, I don't mind. I do have a big problem with Palpatine coming back because you did a very poor job of setting it up. If you were trying to, I know a lot of creators on this app defend the decision. That's fine. You can like it, but in
Mhm.
my objective opinion, they shoehorn that in. They're like, oh, we have to have a big bad.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't mind the decision to bring him back. I just don't like how they did it. I
Yeah,
would have done it different. I would have set it up at the end of the Last Jedi, end of the Force Awakens, because it something that a lot of the fans really hone in on is, well, I shouldn't need to read books to understand something. And it's like, yes, you shouldn't have to, and you don't. For a lot of the stuff in the sequels, you don't need to get the books because, for instance, I can very easily, even though I don't like the explanation, be like, technically there was set up for Palpatine's return. Rey's theme and Kylo's theme comes from Palpatine's theme. And we can very easily take Palpatine being in Rey's vision from The Force Awakens, that he has some sort of implication. We can very easily say that, wow, Snoke looks very remarkably like Palpatine. Not identically, but the face structure and whatnot looks like Palpatine. He also uses lightning like Palpatine does. So it's like, yes, I can very much say it was set up. It wasn't, but it just wasn't set up good.
no, I totally agree, and I like to think about it from what a common fan is going to think. A common fan must have been so just lost because we see that stuff though. The Rey and Kylo theme, we see the way Rey fights with the lightsaber fights a lot like Palpatine does in Revenge of the Sith. We
Mm-hmm.
see the vision with Palpatine. They're not going to pick up on that. I just feel like it was definitely shoehorned in. And that's again, if you want to defend that decision, go ahead. But
Mm-hmm.
in my objective opinion, they definitely shoehorned it in. They did a poor, just say they did a poor job explaining it if they wanted to. And it's like the problem I have is like, oh, like they get Kylo finds they say in the opening paragraph, the opening crawl, Palpatine's alive. I'm like, okay. And then we just see the Sith Eternal like working on snow clones, and then Palpatine's like, the explanation in the movie is like the dark side's the pathway to many abilities to some I consider unnatural. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, cool. You used a line from Revenge of the Sith to explain how Palpatine's alive. Really, really clever writing, JJ. But like,
Right. And then it even at that point misses what that line in Revenge of the Sith was trying to get at.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was like, dude, cool. You got it. You know the memes, but please don't use them.
No, it's like it gets to this, and I personally, like I said earlier, I never even when I look back on it, I don't want 7, 8, or 9 even made. Because to
Mm-hmm.
me, Star Wars is the story of Anakin Skywalker and his son bringing him back. Now, you could have done a sequel trilogy, but don't have the ramifications that it did. Because you brought back the big bad for the first 6 movies. And I don't think it undermines Anakin's
No, I
sacrifice.
don't either.
But to me, it doesn't feel the same
Right.
when he kills Palpatine. It definitely will never feel the same because it's like when he kills him, it's like, oh, he saved his son. But it's how I feel. It's how I feel.
Yeah. Right. And it's completely valid how you feel. I personally I like the idea because when Snoke was introduced, I was like, something's off about him. I don't think he's the big bad of this trilogy. And when he died in episode 8, I was like, where are they going with this? Because there's no way that Palpatine had nothing to do with the First Order. And that's something that even Choco and I have agreed on is how did the man of 1,000 plans, he had a plan for almost everything. He had a plan for if Vader was like, if you read the comics, he had a plan when Vader started making an army to overthrow Palpatine. He was ready for it. And I was like, are you really trying to tell me he didn't have a plan if he tried to overthrow him? I was like, that really seems a little, really?
Yeah.
That seems a little like unbelievable. Like how can he not have a plan to sense the very conflicted person who is his apprentice? How could he not see something happening?
Yeah, I totally agree. I just it's always like to me I feel like when they build up Palpatine's character, he's very arrogant. Like he doesn't think, especially in Return of the Jedi, he's like, "Oh, I have you now." And when Vader turns, it's unexpected. That's how I always feel. But when you see Palpatine, and the other problem is like the prequels. I always encourage people who watch Star Wars for the first time, watch 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
I feel like if you watch 1, 2, 3, your experience of 4, 5, and 6 are dampened. They just because 1, 2, and 3 are also hampered by 4, 5, and 6 because you can't do crazy stuff.
Yeah, and that's the problem that I have with this. What's the order to watch Star Wars? If you watch it 1, 2, and 3, your experience for 4, 5, and 6 isn't going to be that good. If you watch it 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3, you're not going to have such good enjoyment because or of the prequels, because then it's like, well, then you know everything.
Yeah.
Luke and Leia are going to be related. You know Anakin is at one point going to get a wife and impregnate her. So it's kind of like that shock of her being pregnant and Revenge of the Sith. It's kind of like, oh, you're pregnant with twins, but oh, you don't know you're pregnant with twins. It kind of feels like that thing that happens on TikTok of like, tell me that you're pregnant without telling me you're pregnant.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
don't do that, please. So it's really a weird argument. I always say watch 4, 5, and 6, and I say that because yes, to the common person, everyone knows the twist of Empire Strikes Back. Everyone knows it nowadays. If you don't know it, you have been living under a rock.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's more or less that twist that Luke and Leia are related. Because
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
that's the biggest twist. Because again, I was showing my friend the movies for the first time, and we watched it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the order that she wanted to watch them in. And she is one of those people who were like, yeah, I didn't like 1, 2, 3. She's like, I didn't understand them very much. I didn't understand. And that's something that I also love about Star Wars is people see it so differently. I try to look at all the movies up like this. What is the movie trying to accomplish? And how well does it do it? I can very much tell you what episode 3 is trying to accomplish, and I can tell you that it does it very well. Does it do it on all parts well? No. But it gets it done. I can't tell you what episode 1 or 2 is trying to get done.
Okay, I can explain 2. 2 was trying to show you that Anakin's this bold character who has dark side tendencies. And 2, listen, Attack of the Clones is really bad. And I've told people the only scene I like in that movie is when we see Anakin kill the Tusken Raiders. That's the only scene I really love in that movie because we see his dark side tendencies. The movie does a really poor job with doing that. The movie does a horrible job, and he's not even like a good Jedi in that movie. He like sucks. He doesn't do anything.
Can we please talk about that fight? I mean, he kind of just like he just kind of opens his arms up, and it's like, what'd you think was gonna happen?
It's a really bad, and then like Obi-Wan, you're like, dude, you just beat like Maul or whatever. Like this is like what is, and the Phantom Menace. The problem I have with the Phantom Menace is I think Attack of the Clones should have been episode 1.
Yes.
And then make episode 2 a movie within the Clone Wars, and then Revenge of the Sith. But the problem is that like, oh, if you take away the Phantom Menace, you take away one of the coolest Jedi ever, Qui-Gon.
Yeah, and that's the thing is episode 1 is kind of that movie that's like you can very easily explain that away in a flashback. It's one of those things, not many important things happen. It's like, yeah, we're introduced to the Jedi at the time, and we meet Anakin Skywalker, we meet Padme Amidala, we meet all these characters. You can easily explain that away in snippy dialogue, flashbacks, which was something that I liked about the sequels is that they had flashbacks. And so we didn't have to have these super long movies or start back in the past. If the flashback had relevance to the thing at hand, then it'd be a short thing. Like Last Jedi had the 3 flashbacks of the differing perspective. Tell me what was the importance of the pod race? Now, yes, we know it as Anakin being freed, but to the overall story of Phantom Menace, I forgot he was a slave for a long time after watching. I was like, I forgot how they got Anakin.
Yeah. It's like one of those. Yeah, I know what you're saying now. Like, I feel like the Phantom Menace, if they wanted to redo it, they could have had like Luke. You don't see Luke as a 10-year-old. They don't start episode 4 as him as a 10-year-old working as a moisture farmer doing nothing. And then I feel like episode 1 could have been Anakin as a teenager. You could have had him in like similar circumstances, and you could have started the Clone Wars when he was like 16, and have the Clone Wars maybe extend a little bit longer. Have Qui-Gon die still and stuff. Have
Yeah.
Anakin like know he has like force powers but doesn't understand it.
Yeah, have that kind of like Ezra to it. He's doing stuff. He doesn't understand it. He's gonna do it.
Well, then somebody would counter that and say, well, the pod race and he's the only human who can do it. But like he's just flying a ship. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he really is just driving the car. So
plus I will say if I look at the visual effects of episode 1 and 2, they don't hold up. Like the visual effects of 4, 5, and 6 still hold up, even though those movies were made in the 70s and 80s. And credit to George. George was a visionary with all these special effects, green screens, blue screens. It just didn't work for the time. I don't know if you've seen. I'm a big fan of the theatrical releases, the original. And every time I see Jabba, I've seen Jabba. Have you seen like the 90s version of Jabba in A New Hope? It's one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. I'm like, what is this? This is like, it's like I don't understand why George did it. I mean, cool that he did it, but it's
it's kind of like what I saw this video of this girl who was like, she was responding to a comment of like, it was never Luke, I am your father, and she showed this audience reaction to that scene where Vader supposedly said, Luke, I am your father, but it took because he says Luke like earlier before that part, and you can hear the music of that scene when he says Luke, because it has this weird like melodical phrase, and it's like, how are people falling for this? And then apparently the audience reaction was to Infinity War. So
that's so weird.
It's like, are we sure this was audience reaction? I know it was a audience reaction, not to Star Wars.
No, it's just it's really weird to me. Like I guess that's like I can't, like when I think about it now, like I can't remember the first time I've seen those movies. Like how did I react to that? Because now it's just ingrained in my memory. It's really interesting to think about how people react to that stuff. It's really cool to see that.
Right. I mean, that is something that if we could ever get to in the world, being able to see my reaction to Star Wars for the first time, I would pay any price for. Because at the end of the day, Star Wars is my baby. I mean, you can see in my background, in my hand, I'm fidgeting with my thermal detonator. I have helmets. You can't even see it over here. I have posters. I have a Baby Yoda poster right next to me. So Star Wars is something that clearly means a lot, and to a lot of people. And I mean, could we all really imagine seeing it again for the first time? I know I couldn't.
Right. I couldn't. No, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I think my love for it was definitely rejuvenated with obvious, even the sequels I don't like, but they play a special role because it definitely rejuvenated my love for because the Clone Wars was done for a couple of years at that point. So I really was like, ugh, it's done. That's maybe the last thing I ever get. But definitely Disney buying the company was huge. And obviously I'm a huge Mandalorian fan, as you can see. I have a poster wall next to me, a poster in front of me. So the movies definitely touched me because it's the thing I like to talk about the most besides sports. I don't know if you know, I have a sports podcast. Me and my friends talk a lot about sports and stuff. So that's probably my number one. That's Star Wars. So that's how I mean that's how I feel, I guess. But I don't really have any other topics. So do you have anything you want to talk about or?
Not really. I mean, the Star Wars as a fan base has a lot of fixing it needs to do. I think acceptance. I don't know if you know the creator Jedi Starkiller.
Yeah, I do. I do. I've seen some of his stuff.
He recently, not it wasn't really drama, but he was having this kind of debate of Watto in The Phantom Menace. You know how he really had this like racial stereotype connected to him.
Definitely, yeah.
And so I think that's something that Star Wars fans need to remember is that Star Wars is for everyone in the sense that it's trying to connect to a lot of people. You know, for instance, I don't know if you've heard about this. This little girl who dresses up as Rey on her dad's TikTok account. She was being like bullied hardcore just for dressing up as Rey.
I haven't heard about this, but yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it was heartbreaking. This little girl was told a bunch of terrible things. She's like 8. She's like 7 or 8, and she's being called all of these terrible things just for liking a character.
I don't like. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't get like how people write that stuff. Even to like it just a normal person, but to an 8-year-old, especially, like they don't have the thinking capacity as you. They just like the care. It's like I don't know why. I don't get why people like. I don't even know how people. I just if I don't like a video, I just scroll. I don't care.
Right.
I don't even write comments. I only like write comments if it's like my friend's post or if it's like a creator I like. And I don't even really engage in comment sections. Why do you feel the need to write a comment that's hateful, even towards like anybody? Why do you feel the need? I don't get it.
And that's the thing is like it's something. If I could change one thing about the Star Wars fandom, and it would be a huge domino effect change, is people understanding and respecting opinions. For instance, I respect your opinion for not liking Rebels or not liking the sequels. And, you know, I get that you respect mine for liking those things. And so it's not a case of I'm not trying to go into a civil war with you about this is better, this is better, no, this is better. It's just like, well, let's talk. Let's not have this kind of war with each other. Because it's like you said, it's if you are on Star Wars TikTok, when it comes to the sequel trilogy, it really does feel like you're picking sides. That's not how it should be. We should all be just like, let's just like Star Wars.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I know what video you're referring to now. I know, I didn't think about Watto necessarily, but a character I've always associated with a racial stereotype is Newt Gunray. Like Newt Gunray is a like Chinese or Japanese like marketer, I guess you would say, like a trader. You would think you would see in a Chinese or Japanese market. That's like his accent, his everything, like just everything. I'm like, yeah, and I don't think that's I don't think George did that intentionally. I'm not really going to complain about it, but I could see where people complain about it, and I'm okay with that. And I like he got called in his comments a racist or like
terrible things.
Right, and this is where I come from. I understand why you're calling it racist, but I would say that he's just acknowledging the fact that these characters were made based off of stereotypes of race, and stereotypes of race are never good. But it's a I take AP psychology. It's mostly because we associate people like that because of our culture, because of our society, and especially now because of social media. And I don't think it's not inherently wrong, but it should stop. I would say it should stop.
For sure.
And yeah, but Jedi Starkiller is definitely not racist for acknowledging.
No, not at all.
And I can understand his frustration after, like saying, "Why are you calling me racist if I'm just acknowledging
Right. It's an
these
obvious thing that is wrong. Like it's it's always a thing of you need to have perspective. For someone like me or you, we're white, so we rarely don't face these negative stereotypes in a way. But to other people, that could be like really hardly offensive. And,
Mm,
and it's like when you see a character, you try to relate to that character. For instance, many people were hoping that Finn's character would be a great protagonist, African American character, but he was pushed to the side in episode 9. People argue episode 8. I think he had a major role still in episode 8, not as big as Force Awakens, but still a big role nonetheless. And it's like I couldn't imagine, being black and seeing a character that was. Look at the marketing Finn got for Force Awakens. You see him all the time in these posters with lightsabers. It's like, oh my gosh, like, are we gonna have like a protagonist like Black Jedi? And it's like, yeah, he's a Black Jedi, but he was definitely pushed to the side. And it's like, think about how that can make someone feel.
uh, yeah, I think the problem I have with was Disney is the big critique I had was they were very reactionary making these movies. They heard the reception of The Force Awakens and they pushed. I would disagree. I think Finn's story in The Last Jedi was kind of pointless. That's my.
Mm-hmm.
But and then The Rise of Skywalker was even like worse. I'm like, ah, oh, Jesus, like, and John Boyega. I don't know if you know this. John Boyega voiced his frustration. He said they felt they knew what they were doing with Rey and Kylo, but they never knew what to do with me. And I understand where John's coming from.
For
Um,
sure.
with that perspective. Yeah, it's like I can understand why he's very frustrated. And I would love a Finn show, but I don't think it's ever going to happen because of his. He just doesn't agree where they took the character.
Which is completely, acceptable on his part. I would feel the same way if I was told all these things that I was going to be, and I just wasn't. Because again, um, it does suck to feel like a lot of people don't relate to many characters in Star Wars. Because, for instance, you have Jewish people, for example, going back on this Jedi Starkiller thing. And when people who are, for instance, Jewish, and I'm not talking for people, I'm just saying, like, as an example's sake, one of the major Jewish, stereotypes is a slaver and is, only the money, only, very money greedy. And so it's like, that's not something that people want to see. People want to see relatable, heroic people in those roles. And it just sucks knowing that those things happen. And I think Star Wars fans need to remember that we should be trying to pick each other up, not push each other down for having differing opinions. Again, the world would be a very, very boring place if we all agreed on the same things. Conversation is what's important, not being right. That's why this conversation with you is why I wanted to have it with you, is because I could very easily say, yeah, this guy made a very bad point in his video talking about gender bias, so I don't need to have this conversation. But opening a conversation has opened up this. We're talking, we're not, people aren't going to hopefully assume that we hate each other and, see each other on the streets and pulling out each other's hair. But we need to talk more with each other. A lot of people are just like, hey, I like Rey. You like who? You like Rey? You're not a Star Wars fan. All Star Wars fans know that Rey's a bad character. And that's the thing. Don't talk for the masses. You don't know everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And yeah, I guess it goes back to the point I alluded to earlier. I am very worried that what Star Wars TikTok's going to become is it's going to become a place where the fandom menace specifically is going to, want to come, migrate over, because we don't have a lot of those creators. We have people comment stuff, but we don't have a lot of those types of creators yet. Um, And I think where I'm at, I think I'm at the point where I'm in the middle ground. But I get the followers that are would associate with the fandom menace because I'm their closest voice they have on this platform. And I don't care if they follow me. But like when you comment dumb stuff, I'm gonna call them out. And they don't like that. But yeah, I just worry about that, and I'm glad, people like Element 7, Choco, those guys are really like they're doing the best they can,
Hmm.
and it's tough. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, just be better to each other. That's what if that's one takeaway from this talk is just be better to each other. Remember that we all see something different because of our life experiences, and that we should be praising each other and praising the things we love. As much as people don't like this line, we should be fighting for what we love, not fighting for what we hate. Because
Yeah,
again, if we were fighting for what we hate, I'd have a page dedicated to hating The Rise of Skywalker and Attack of the Clones.
yeah, I totally agree. So I guess, yeah, I guess that can wrap it up. I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Great conversation. Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at my name here in the bottom left, CandyInmyvan on TikTok. That's primarily where I am. I don't really use any other social media, but that's where I post Star Wars lore. I'll answer questions, and if you want to interact with me there, you can. I have my Discord link in my TikTok bio, so if you want to come join there and we can talk on there, we can. I'm open for any discussion anytime. Uh, Remember, do not be afraid to reach out to creators. Creators are a lot friendlier than we appear. So that's really it for me.
All right, well, guys, thank you for watching. Well, I'll be back later for my sports podcast. We'll be going every single night this week for the Super Bowl. So yeah, I want to thank. What is your actual name?
Oh, my name's Alex.
Okay, Alex. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, we will see you all later. Thank you.